While we know the Texas Rangers as heroic men who served their country by ensuring the defense of the Texan frontiers, it's not widely known that they were also men who committed several unlawful and immoral acts that wouldn't make anyone classify them as noble, law-upholding men by any standards. In this video, we will go back to the 1800s to learn about the infamous Texas Rangers. Join us as we uncover the reason for their formation, their struggle with the American Indians, particularly the Comanches, and their evolution from a normal patrol squad to an army of men who redefined 19th century warfare. If you like books and documentaries about the Old West, then this video is just for you. The Texas Rangers are not widely publicized in the media, which is ironic given its significance in the history of Texas. And so, you'd be introduced to a world of learning in this video. Now, let's get into it. They were just a normal group of people who served the Mexican government. They go way back in history, over 200 years ago. In 1823, Stephen F. Austin, who is regarded as the father of Texas today, created a group of rangers to protect the people of his colony. He felt the Mexican government fell short in its ability to protect the locals from thieves and the barbaric American Indians. And so he consolidated the government's militia patrol with his army of 10 men, which he paid with his own money. This marked the birth of the Texas Rangers. Their task was to patrol the roads and forestry around the colony for thieves and Native American Indians, who at the time had been a menace to the people of the colony. These American Indians, particularly the Comanches, were nomadic horse riders who raided settlements and hunted animals, especially bison. By right, the land was already occupied by the American Indians before European Americans began encroaching on their soil due to the massive influx of settlers in the region after the 1836 Texas Revolution. So, various American Indian tribes reduced in geographical size as the colonizers sought these lands. However, tribes like the Comanches did not stay quiet about this encroachment. They raided settlements, be it neighboring Native Indian tribes or that of European Americans, and these raids always ended badly for the victims. The Comanches were not known for their forgiveness or empathy. They took no prisoners and killed whomever at their whim, regardless of whether it was a woman or child. This was the nature of the region of Oklahoma or Texas in the 19th century, and this was why the Texas Rangers was formed. During this time of Comanche aggression, John Coffee Jack Hayes grew in prominence as he became a leading figure for the Texas Rangers. He led various fights against the American Indians, displayed good decision-making skills and leadership qualities, and became well-respected by the men and women in the colony. With time, the Texas Rangers' numbers expanded to include men who were inspired by Hayes, men who were willing to partake in the protection of their families from the savage Comanches, and men who wanted revenge for previous Comanche raids. And so it became that the group of men who were originally tasked with patrolling the frontier, arresting thieves and cattle rustlers, protecting settlers, and enforcing laws grew to become Comanche fighters who had to train to match the frequency of their main enemies. But the Comanches were a force to be reckoned with. They were arguably the best at horseback riding battles, and no one could match them, not even the Texas Rangers. The Comanches fought with arrows with which they could shoot multiple projectiles without blinking, while they remained mounted on their horses. They had 14-foot-long spears and other unrefined weapons like clubs and knives, all of which had been acquired through trades and raids. Meanwhile, the Texas Rangers were only armed with one Kentucky long rifle, 2 single-shot pistols, and 1 knife each. Then they had Mexican blankets tied behind their saddles, a small wallet bearing salt and ammunition, parched corn, and tobacco, all of which could sustain the average ranger for a month of regular patrols, but could not square against an army of Comanches in battle. In essence, the Texas Rangers were at a disadvantage when it came to fighting the Comanches. So they resorted to hiding during Comanche raids before tracking and hunting them down in their numbers. However, all this changed when the Texas Rangers reviewed and reformed their battle tactics in the mid-1830s. They observed the tracking skills of their enemy Comanches, which involves the art of following the tracks of horses, especially in the wilderness, and the trail of smoke mostly made from campfires. Incorporating all these techniques of warfare into vigorous training, the Texas Rangers prepared for the day when they could outmatch and outwit the American Indians. Luckily for them, that day was very much in sight. Around this time, Samuel Colt, an inventor on the East Coast, came up with the prototype of a 5-shot pistol. It was called the Colt Patterson revolver. After which Jack Hayes and the rest of the Rangers jumped on this new masterpiece, as it meant that the Texas Rangers could finally level the playing field with the Comanches. Then, in 1846, after getting word that his pistol had served the Rangers a great deal, Samuel Colt approached Samuel Walker, a Texas Ranger, to ask for his opinion on how the revolver could be improved. This led to the creation of the ingenious Colt 6-shooter, which was a larger, more enhanced form of the 5-shot pistol, with an additional 6th round. It was so powerful that a single shot could kill a man or horse, and it was super efficient because of its quick reload time. With this evolution in weaponry, the Texas Rangers were nearly undefeatable in battles against the Comanches. Gone were the days when the Rangers suffered enormous disadvantages due to their single-shooter rifles. Now the Texas Rangers could think and fight like the Comanches, a feat that even the American soldiers were intrigued by. As word spread of the Rangers' bravery, American soldiers were in awe. These soldiers were only familiar with the type of warfare where you'd dismount from your horse and fight, and they had only fought predictable enemies, but the Comanches were built different. They were masters of mounted warfare. They didn't have to come down to reload their weapons or thread with caution. Instead, they rode straight towards their enemies, head-on without a single care for their safety. This was what the Texas Rangers had to put up with, and this was what they grew to surpass. After showcasing their new battle tactics in the war between America and Mexico in 1846, the name of the Texas Rangers rang far and wide among US soldiers, who were surprised and impressed by their style of fighting. Then, after the war ended in 1848, the Texas Rangers went back to their duties at the frontier. With their priorities shifting towards driving the Indian tribes from their homelands, the nature of the Texas Rangers changed drastically. They became more ferocious. Instead of launching retaliatory attacks, they changed their tactics to an offensive one, attacking Native Americans, and even civilians unprovoked, like after the Battle of Monterey, where civilian houses were burned, properties were looted, and people were killed. Perhaps it was due to the change they underwent from their experience on the battlefield, or perhaps it was the prevalence of corruption among the brave Rangers. No one could tell, but the Texas Rangers became brazen. Sometimes they executed thieves without a trial, as was the case with Jack Hayes, who was given the power to kill certain thieves, lynched Mexicans and Mexican Americans along the border, and drove the American Indians away from their settlements. It was as if they were above the law and not accountable to anyone anymore. Well, it was the Old West, so that much was expected. Regardless, it didn't change the fact that the heroic and valiant Rangers had such a stain on their name.